We first saw this peach painted house in May 2012, which purchase was finalized on July 5, 2012. Repainting began soon after. Beyond the back of the lot line is property that is part of the Franson Reservoir belonging to the city of Salem. Research regarding future land use indicated it was highly unlikely that this land would be further developed because of the high cost of infrastructure development, which included sewer, water, drainage, and development of streets and curbs. The land between the Douglas fir forest and our property line was a buffer zone of dense noxious weed outcroppings of Scotch bloom and Himalayan blackberry bushes. The nearness of this brushy wilderness to the rear of our home for sure presented a grave potential fire hazard. To lessen the potential of this fire hazard, a plan was developed to remove this brush. Included in the plan was to terrace the bank of the property line and in the process also develop terraces in the buffer zone. On June 3, 2013, I began constructing the stacked wall to the upper terrace. Clearing the land had exposed an excellent rock source, which I could use for this stacked wall. I had no machinery available because of limited access to the upper terrace area, so all the work had to be done by hand using picks, shovels, breaker bars, and rock splitting equipment. Notice the large boulder stacked wall at the base of the bank. Some of this stacked wall would have to be modified, especially on the south end, where the steps to the upper landscape would be built. I purchased a Bosch Bulldog Extreme electric hammer drill and feathers and wedges to break up the boulders into movable pieces. The terrace building task was indeed a daunting endeavor. Thank the Lord for a healthy 71-year-old body. The task ahead of me would take me 3 summers to complete. Today is April 16th, 2014. I have been working on the terracing of the backyard here for since last year, and I've gotten all of this dirt removed up to right here, and this is getting the first tier finished. I have about, 25 feet to go here to finish digging out this area, and I'm in the process of getting ready to put in this socked drain tube to keep water from flooding my backyard and to get it to drain properly into my downspout area. So I have been using the wheelbarrow to get this dirt out of here and been putting it up on the hill here where you see my stacked rock terraces. Putting in the front lower terrace required removing hard-packed clay soil and distributing it to the upper terraced areas. It was required to do all of the work using handheld equipment, as there was no access for larger landscaping equipment into the backyard. Base gravel, cornerstone block, and eventually garden soil were brought to the work location using my Boland's 15.5 horsepower garden tractor and Craftsman trailer. After the first lower terrace wall was completed, I could then do the second terrace, which also required moving hard-packed clay soil, then adding gravel to grade for block laying, and finally putting in planting soil. This little mantis tiller worked like a beaver to break up 15 yards of the broken up clay into the finer soil that could be distributed evenly into the upper terraces and walkways.
all leveled out, and probably put another load or so in here. But let's take a look at what has been accomplished since the early part of 2014. That's quite a long way to wheel that dirt, but to get it that way I've had to lay dirt up on the hill to make paths. Right here is going to be a planting area, probably squash or something like that. Some of this is just dirt path to walk on. This is a apple tree that I planted. It's a Macintosh. And over here is a cherry tree. This is a dwarf Lapins cherry. And here's another apple tree, which is a Braeburn. This is a lilac tree that I planted. Jan always wanted a lilac tree, so there it is. And some azaleas and other shrubbery that were in my front terraced area on the back hill here. There's another azalea and another plant that was transplanted from down below. The deer used this path up here to walk. They found it quite easy to walk up here and eat on my apple trees and stuff. So every place I could, I put, like, here's a little spot to put some plantings. Here's a ramp for the deer to come up if they want to. And if a rock was in the way, I just used my crowbar to get it out of the way. Another planting area right there. This will be another planting area on the other side. You can see where I removed the boulder that I needed. In fact, I put that boulder right here. Actually, it's this boulder that I put there. Had to roll it all the way up the hill. Both of these boulders I had to roll from different areas. They were right here, so I didn't have to move them that far. So here's another planting area for shrubbery, as is there. And this area here, we could make a park-like, picnic table or something and put in here. And there will be a stone pathway in here, and along the side of this ridge could be another planting area, shrubbery or even some kind of plants. So all this just developed as I moved along. I didn't have any plan in mind. I just did one little thing at a time and then moved on to the next. There you can see some of my rocks that were left over. Underneath this dirt is a whole bunch of rocks that I put in that were rocks from the main area up here. Then along here will be a good planting area. I haven't decided what I'm going to put in here yet. Possibly blueberries would be a good choice because deer don't seem to bother blueberries.
Wrong.
But the problem is I have to pay for those plants, and this land right here is City of Salem land, so anything I do up here I have to be willing to forfeit if they decide to do anything with this land. So it's mostly my labor that's going into doing this, and that's okay. I need the exercise.
Granddaughter Madison bowling with her friend on August 10th, 2014, reap a cucumber harvest.
Starting to shape up and show a little development as I'm doing this, which I'm quite pleased with so far. I'm anxious to see how my fruit trees do in this clay soil. Well, back to work. Today is November 10th, 2014. Just want to take a picture here of what I have done so far on the back terraces. I have installed the drain fields, and right here is a connection for a drain pipe for the upper terrace. And I'm in the process of doing the last wheelbarrow full of dirt that I have to move from here all the way up to where you see that yellow brake handle. That means I've got to go all the way around because it's too steep for me to get the wheelbarrow up any closer.
When clearing pathways and making room for the upper terraces, I had to manually move large rocks employing skills of fulcrum, leverage, and tipping points to minimize the use of sheer strength. To move a large rock out of a hole, I would use a smaller rock as a fulcrum for my bar to lift it high enough to get a larger rock to fit in the space underneath it. I would do this several times to get the large rock high enough so that I could tip it out of the hole. Sometimes this took several hours to complete as I worked alone to accomplish a rock removal. Once removed, I would horse it around using the bar to get it to a desired place. If the rocks were too big to move out of a hole, I would use my hammer drill to drill holes to insert feathers and wedges to split the rocks into manually movable pieces. I had to build a block pathway alongside my garage in order to get proper traction for my garden tractor and trailer, so that I could get heavy loads of material such as gravel, soil, or cornerstone block up to the terraced areas.
Today is April 30th, 2015. I'm laying my base for my wall, and I've got it almost done here, just a little bit more to go. The line here is for my drip irrigation, and I've already installed the two leads to my irrigation drip line. And I'll show you how I get this gravel up here. Since I don't have any room for equipment, I've got to shovel it all by hand and move it by hand. I'll show you how I do that. I have put to use my little Boland's tractor. It's a 15.5 horsepower motor, and it pulls this old Sears cart here that I've refurbished. Put a plywood base in the bottom to keep the cans from slipping to the back when I go up a hill. I put in this non-skid rubber mats, and what I do is load each one of these pails and put them in the cart, and I'll haul it up the hill through the doors here and right up there. Now it's time to put them in the cart. Each one of these pails weighs between 70 and 70. Only have 7. So the last one I put right in the middle here. And then I take off with it. Okay, I've just finished emptying the buckets, and now I'm going to bring it up to grade. This is my grade line right here.
My grade line is also my plumb line for the back of my cornerstone block. This rough leveling gets me pretty close to my plate compacted final grade, which is screeded, adding a fine gravel to get the final grade for block laying.
I just tamped the gravel here a little bit. Okay. I rough it out and then tamp it down. And I check the level a little bit. Right on. Right on. Right on. So I'm ready for the next load now.
I had to remove several large boulders at the bottom of the bank to allow me to build steps to the upper terraces. This last largest boulder had to be split into 4 separate pieces, which would allow me to finish the task. Removing the large boulders at the bottom of the bank also cleared the area for irrigation and drainage piping.
Okay, now I got to get this up in the wagon. Remember, just lift half at a time.
The next unedited scenes are shown for Dave's rock wrestling performance. The boulder pieces were loaded into the cart and carried off for landfill in the neighborhood.
wireless separator. Well, it's a big piece. I managed to get it up onto the cart, but I don't know if I can get it all the way. The struggle goes on. There she's in. Woo! Takes a little out of you. Well, this is the last big one for clearing up that hole so I can build my stairs. Some leverage on this. Remember, just half at a time. That's a heavy sucker. Get a little closer to that. Lift half at a time. Woo! That was heavy. And there it is. Open for the steps that will go up there.
Having completed and leveled the first terrace base, I am ready to start laying cornerstone block. Life in the neighborhood is made a lot easier when you have great neighbors like Scott, who allows me to put my materials in his driveway until I can get my wall built.
Okay. First load of blocks, and I'm ready to lay my first block. The first block will be in the corner, and that's the type of block that we're using from Mutual Materials here in Salem, Oregon. Okay, that's the first block. Now we'll get the second block. We got some laid already. Well, that line of blocks looks so good. But you know what's wrong with this picture? I've installed those blocks with the nubs up. The blocks are supposed to be with the nubs down and knocked off on the first row. So now I have to tear out these blocks, knock the nubs off, and reset them. Isn't that just wonderful? Okay, to knock the nubs off, put your chisel right like that. It should take just about one blow, maybe two. Do the same on the other side. Then you gotta turn it around like that. And set it right there. And lay it down. And make your final adjustments. Having a good base prepared really helps. See, I don't have to level these anymore because they're pretty level because I made the base very level. See that orange line? That's what I use to make a straight line with the block. You just got to be careful not to bump the line. Get a better shot of that. Okay, there we go. I'm done with that first row, and I checked the interlock. It does work. I noticed there is about a quarter inch or so of setback on the block though. I thought it was a complete straight face, but it isn't. I can load 8 at a time in that wagon. Okay, there's another 8. 8 times 18 inches.
And time for another load of block. Each one of the cornerstone face 18-inch blocks weighs 83 pounds. 8 in this cart weighs 664 pounds and covers 12 linear feet. The north end of the first bottom terrace wall finished, it was necessary to true up the south end so the irrigation, drainage, and steps could be put in.
This rock right here is going to have to be trimmed because I need a little more space at the end of that rock to give it more support with the rock that will come up from the bottom. So this rock, it's close. If it was about 5 inches deeper in there, it would give my block plenty of support. So I'm going to have to figure out a way using my hammer drill, which is a Bosch Bulldog Extreme SDS Plus drill, and I'm going to use wedges and feathers, and these are some of the tools I'm going to possibly use to complete this little project. The pail of water here is to cool off my drill between holes. And since this is going to be an irregular shape rock that I'm drilling, it is difficult to say how well that's going to chip. So let's see what will happen. First off, I'm going to have to take some measurements and draw some lines on the rock for my drill points. So I want it to crack following that line. So I'm going to take off this part of the rock right in here. So I had to get a square here so that I can try to make that line as straight as possible. I sort of got to sight this up here.
As the drilling dust would obliterate my drill point marks, I pre-marked each point with the drill and then later drilled each hole to the appropriate depth. Okay, the holes are all drilled.
It's time to put the wedges and feathers in. This is the feathers, this is the wedge. Goes together like this. Okay, see that? Now we got to go put it in the hole. Okay, it goes in the hole because you want to split the rock this way and this way. So it goes in like so. Try to line it up so that it'll crack right along this line. And you just tap that in to hold it. And you do that with all these feathers. Okay, the wedges and feathers are all in. And all lined up. I used a lot more feathers and wedges than normal because I want to control this split a little better. I'm worried about the top, but we'll see how she splits here. Concentrating more on this than on the top because the top is going to shatter, and all I want there is tension. Okay, it has split, but I think the whole rock split, which I really didn't want to happen, but that's okay. It'll be easier to set my block. Another special tool you want is one of these magnets to pull your feathers out of the hole. Okay, all the feathers and wedges are out, and that rock is going to have to come out. So that's a different video. If I remove that rock and then build my wall straight across and up. Right down here is where my steps will go. Start of the steps is the base is already set right there, and it'll go up the hill here. Just a little progress update. Today is Saturday, August 8th, and I've started to put in the steps. I had to use 8-inch rise because Cornerstone doesn't have a 3-inch cap block, and so it's 2 4-inch makes 8 inches. I've left the side open here just so there would be access to any kind of utilities that we'd like to put through up in the upper gardens up there. And you can see where the water is, so in case you need to access that pipe, it goes up alongside the drain and then it comes out there. And I finished making my manifold, and as soon as I can get my steps up there where I can get my grade proper up this hill, I'll be able to finish the rest of the wall and then start on the back terrace. Today is September 1st, 2015. I have just completed this second irrigation system. This goes in the overflow system on the skydrop controller. These are valves that are numbered, and we'll go over each valve separately, and it is undetermined at this point where each of these lines will go. The blue, the green handle here is the shut-off valve for the second series of irrigation valves. This will shut off the whole system for the terraces and the upper irrigation areas. Attached right after that is a filter that filters the whole system in this area, including the lead-off lines to the faucet that I'm going to have up in this area. This manifold contains a total of 5 valves, and the wire that leads into this is a 6-wire cable, and there is room left here so that you could add one more zone, but I do not need that at this time, so I will make it ready to put in another zone if the need should arise. The first line that leads off of this manifold is not controlled by a valve. It will be on constantly, and it feeds to the outside hydrant, and that will be completed when I get my grade level completed, and it will be use a system that you can remove the hydrant if you so desire from the valve. Okay, the first valve on this system is number 9, and that will be a brown wire leading to the controller. And on this zone is a drip irrigation for the upper terraces, and I will show you where they lead. You will see a gray tube there and a line here. This goes to the left side of the steps to irrigate the area on the other side of the steps here. There will be some plants planted here to help hold down the soil here, and it will be drip irrigated with a mini drip system. There will be 8 zones, and there's where the tube comes out, and the 8 zones will be one for the flat area, and then be separate zones for each of the steps where you could put a pot of flowers or something on there. At the end of the manifold is a stub that you can be completed to one more valve in this area. The reason we can only put a total of 6 valves in this box is that there are only 6 wires that come out of the cable. It's right there. So this stub will also have a pass-through to the wall that will run right through here and out to here. So you can see on the drip irrigation there are pressure reduces to 30 pounds. And this last one here, the green one, is for spray heads that will be along the upper lawn area in here. So that's about it. Now I will be filling in this with gravel and getting it ready to lay my block, and hopefully I'll be able to do that pretty soon. These wooden rails that are here now are temporary. They're just a place to put my boxes temporarily until I get it filled to the proper level where I can rest them on a solid base. And for my large box, I'm using these blocks right here to make a level area where the box can rest on. So hopefully that'll work out well. This gives me a gauge to how far up I need to put my gravel. This red line here is where the back of my wall will be. So I'm leaving about 5 or 6 inches out the back, so if you need to repair these at any time, it'll be easier to access from this side, from the back side. And this stub here is actually a live area where you could add another line or another system, and you would have a complete flow of water through this line. And off of that line also is that stub for another valve. This is the pass-through that I've created for the stub in case you want to add another valve to that stub. I've left a little distance between the stub and the pass-through to allow a little clearance for movement of your pipe. So on the end here is masking tape. That is so you can just punch through that for your additional pipe. On this end is a removable cap that's just put on there loosely, so you can twist that off and gain access to the pass-through. On the end of the stub is a screw-off cap. So it is a threaded end, so keep that in mind if you're going to put in an additional valve. You could actually screw the valve right to the end of that if you wanted to. Okay, I've added the pass through here. Right here. This can be removed. It may take a little bit. It's just slipped on there, but you can get that off. And the wall, 12 inches, will go about to here for the wall. And this is about 5.5 inches from there, so if you put a valve right here and take a screw end T like that and head it down, and an L, you can get it right out and through there. And I've color coded the stubs here, and they will go for drip irrigation, and this one here, the green one, will go along the back wall here for sprinklers on the lawn up here. This is going to take a little bit more time to develop this. I probably won't get it done this year yet, but I can work on it in the winter time and get it finished. And my drain, my French drain, will hook in here, that end from the far end there. It'll be about an 8-inch drop from the far end down to here. And that drain, of course, drains right into my rain gutters over there, and the drain pipes that service the gutters. Okay? Now I'm ready to put the gravel in here and get it ready to put my screed rails in. After I compact this one final time, this has to be compacted one final time here. Make sure I have a good solid base, and hope to get that, start laying block in the next week or so.
Okay, David, what are you going to do?
Okay, this is a whacker, a plate compactor. I've got to compact all of this before I do my final screed and leveling of the base. Whacker plate compactor. And to lift this sucker takes a lot of my energy. Gotta lock the wheels up, and then I can turn it around. I gotta get it way to the end here.
And what does that do?
This compacts the soil to make a firm base for my blocks.
For your next layer of blocks, huh?
Yes.
And how did you get this here?
Well, I had to turn around there, and you can see I had to take it all the way up the sidewalk in the front of the house and around the back of the property here. And fortunately it had wheels on it.
And then you wheeled it all the way from the way down there, huh?
Yes. Okay, I think that'll do it. I mostly wanted to get the 12 inches there compacted really well. So what I have to do next is put up my rails so I can do my final screed to make it nice and level, and then I can start laying my block. Okay, now I've got to get this out of here and take her back to where I rented it. It cost $57 to rent this for 4 hours. I wish this had a reverse on it. That'd be a lot more helpful. Back to the truck. It's a lot easier downhill. This is just an update on the current progress. I've got my box set. I've used the cement block to set at proper height. There will be 16 inches of soil in this bed, so this should be at the top of the 16 inches. This box is not completely set yet. I just put some shims underneath it just to show you what it might look like when it's completely set. The reason I haven't completely set this is I am in the process of doing my final screed to the bed here as I'm getting ready to put in my finer gravel for my final screed. The rails are put in and staked with 3 stakes per 8-foot rail. This gives the rail more stability, so when I do my final screed, I will get it accurate. I've used my block line, grade level line, to help me set the grade. One thing you have to make sure on the grade line is that it is taut. Make it as tight as you can, so when you lay your screed rails down, they will be level with that string. To get the second set of rails, this one right here, I just took a level to level it from this one, from the right one here, to the left one. To get it level, I used a screed rail that I'm going to be using to do my final and screeding. So as I go down, I take out the excess dirt or fill in the low spots, and then I will tamp it, and then I'll get some 3/8 inch minus or 1/4 inch minus and do my final screed to get this level and ready to lay my blocks. As I go along on this next to the final screed, after I screed it, I tamp it again and make room for the 3/8 inch minus. So this has been compacted very well to make sure I have a sturdy base to set my wall. And I just hand tamp this because I have used the plate compactor to give it the most compaction that I can get. And this just will compact the next 1/2 inch or so of gravel to make it really firm. I have just screeded this, and this was a little low spot, so I want to make sure I have this compacted. It helps if you have this a little damp. But I don't have much compaction to do here, so this should be fine. This just helps keep things really level. If you get your grade right, the rest is easy. Okay. So that's how it's screeded. Then I just remove that excess gravel, put it in where my drain field is going to be for my French drain.
It is now September 12th, 2015, and I have laid the first 2 rows of blocks on the upper wall terrace. It is time to designate the upper landscape area irrigation stations.
This is from the step wall, north side. It's heading north. You can see all my connections here. This one here will be the hydrant. This is station 10. This is station 11. Station 12. And station 13.
This is a pass-through full pressure line that can be used for additional irrigation lines or hooked up as a water source line if the original water source line fails.
It comes right out of the box right there.
If you need to add a 14th station, you can use this stub to hook up another valve and line to go through this pass-through. The cap can easily be removed.
Well, today is September 24th, 2015. Just an update on the progress of the terraces. I have completed the block lane of the terraces and currently in the process of doing some backfilling. I have put in the ajuga or bugleweed alongside the steps here to hold the soil down. And I'm currently in the process of backfilling behind the wall. I've got maybe a little over 1.5 yards or up to 2 yards to finish putting in for the backfill, and then I'll start to level out the soil and make a planting bed along the wall. And the upper terraces are still in progress of developing. I take a break from the terrace to work on the upper terraces here occasionally. Starting to get fall, and so the burning bush is starting to burn. Yesterday I planted a Coosa dogwood. It's in a kind of a confined space, but hopefully that'll kind of control the height and growth of the dogwood. The Lappin's cherry did do some serious growing this year. The Macintosh did not deliver any apples this year. The Braeburn apple grew a little bit, and as you can see, there are some apples on the tree. Little dwarf Alberta spruce here are growing, and the thyme is growing. This will be a planting area right along here. You can see the deer tracks, a major problem for gardens in this area. And this is the backfill for the upper terrace wall here. It's 3/4 inch crushed quarry, minus quarry. Includes some dust from the crushing of the minus in it. That helps in packing. And so we're going to try to get in a yard of quarry today. This is a 1/4 inch minus quarry. That is what I use for fine-tuning the levels of the wall. I have to put some of this in the upper terrace to complete the leveling of the boxes. So when I add the soil, the boxes will be level. The upper terrace wall here is 26 inches wide. I'm about ready to get my tractor and trailer together and pails up, 7 pails I used to haul the quarry up into the backfill area. I have just finished putting the blocks in to level the valve boxes, and I just like a neat looking valve box, nice and level, and so I'm going to put those in, and on the ends of the boxes there's holes. I'll put some cloth around those holes to prevent dirt from getting into the valve box.
And now it's time to get that backfill completed. One pail at a time, it took about 4 yards of gravel to complete the backfill process.
Today is October 6th. In the past week I finished chinking this front stacked wall, plugging the holes with 10 bags of sacrate that I have colored, and now I'm ready to start putting soil in. I've laid the landscape cloth down, and I'm going to start on this first level. I've had 4 yards of mushroom compost planting mix delivered. I've ordered a total of 16 yards, and it'll be 4 yards at a time. So I've moved the hose up here now. It works out of this new hydrant box, and I may, instead of putting blueberries in the second terrace, I may put them in the back of the terrace right here. That would make a good bush screen. The only problem is the deer, but the blueberries will be easier to pick if they're on the top level, and that leaves what I'm going to plant in here open. Could be shrubbery, flowers, or a mixture. So I'm going to start getting the black dirt now. I'm going to start putting it in. It'll be done 7 pails at a time using my tractor and wagon. I've had the 4 yards delivered in my driveway. When those are When that dirt from that is gone, then I will order another 4 yards. And after I get this done, these replanting areas here, I will move soil into this area and put the lawn in along here, and also I will put soil in the planting areas up on the above terrace in my 3 garden planting areas that I have up here. So let's get to it. Last 2 or 3.
Is this your last pail?
My last
For this
pail.
level.
For this level.
We're going to have rain in a little while.
Yeah.
This is good black fertilized dirt. Good old farmer dirt.
20 bucks a yard, and it took about 11 yards.
And what is that green thing you're standing on?
These are my irrigation boxes, valve boxes.
Okay, looks like you must have them pretty strong.
Yep, they are very strong. And they are level.
Yes. You've gotten compliments about your backyard. Trying to figure out what kind of a newsletter we could start for Turner to show them what we're doing.
Yeah.
As the Turner turns?
As the Turner turns. Yeah. The Great Wall of Turner. As the Turner turns.
And you're not done.
No, got to do back here. I've got my line drawn for my next bed.
You drew a line in the sand, huh?
I drew a line in the sand. Anybody crosses that, I'll unload my bombs on them.
Oh, where have we heard that before?
I don't know. Okay, the rest of this, I've got about 2 more yards of black dirt left in the driveway. So I will put that up in my garden spots for now.
For now, you're going to just dump it out there?
Just dump it out in my garden spots.
You're not going to do anything with this last line?
It's not ready yet to put dirt in.
Oh. You got to dig the line straight.
I got to dig that out so I can have a bed in there. I'm in the process of taking the dirt out, the extra dirt out of the side of the upper terrace here for my blueberry bed. I'm going to make a 40-inch wide bed, but that means I'll have extra soil in here extra clay soil that I want to remove. So I got to find a place to put this soil. So we'll travel up along here and I'll show you where I'm going to put it. Planted this Japanese maple the other day that was given to me by a neighbor, and along here was an extra place where I can put another terrace. So I've removed a lot of the rocks. I've got more to go, but I've got this great big rock right there that I have to get out of this hole, and I'm gonna put it right on the edge here for a stacked wall. Thing weighs about, I don't know, 250 pounds or so. So I've got to gradually lift that up and then roll it over so I can stick it right in this spot right here. And you see what I'm doing, honey?
Yes, I do, Amazon man.
So far I've been working about 3 hours on this little spot here. So it's taken me a little time, but I'll gradually get it. Okay, I got the rock out of the hole, and it's going to make a little ridge here for my raised bed. I just got to position it. I'll probably turn it upside down or put it in position for the edge of my raised stacked rock terrace here. That was quite a feat. You see how I raised it by throwing rocks underneath it and lifting it just an inch or two at a time. That's how you got to move these big old rocks. This one probably weighed 200 pounds or 250 pounds. But I got it just so I could get it above the tipping point, and I tipped it right over into the walkway here. Now I got to reposition some rocks and make the line look halfway decent. The dirt from the new terrace bed will come from here as I widen this out to 40 inches along the wall for a new planting area. I'll use the excess soil that I have here to put in my new terrace bed. Let's take a walk up the trail here and I'll show you what I've done. Here's my Japanese maple that was planted. So what I've done is expanded this area here by taking out all the rocks and using them to make a retaining wall, and I will fill this in with the soil from the other terrace that I'm putting in alongside the back wall of the large terrace. So it's quite deep here, probably at least 3 feet deep. So if I wanted to plant a tree here, I could do that. However, because of the shaded area here, I don't know how successful that tree will be. So
it is now October 24th, 2015. I have used my Mantis tiller to dig trenches for the 1-inch poly pipe that I will be using for my irrigation lines. Helpful in this task was my Mantis tiller. In the front trenches of the upper terraces, it was easy to till and dig these trenches. However, in the east side of the upper terraces, it was more difficult. There were big rocks to move or break up in order to clear the space for my lines, and this took some time and effort. March 16, 2016 shows progress in the irrigation line installation. 16 MPR rotors would handle the lawn between the upper and lower terraces. An extra valve was installed to assure adequate water supply. The additional work on the irrigation of the upper and lower terraces is shown in the following slides. The irrigation was completed on March 29, 2016. All of the terraces had individual drip irrigation. Large garden areas used a 1/2-inch clogless drip line with 12-inch hole spacing. The 1/4-inch lines on individual plants used a 6-inch hole spacing configuration. The use of drip lines proved to be very efficient, and with the SkyDrop Smart Irrigation Controller, proved to be very economical for the area covered as well. For a more complete description of the irrigation system, see the movie on drainage and irrigation.
Today is May 12th, 2016. I just thought I'd give an update on the progress of the gardens and the terraces. As you can see, the strawberries that we planted are starting to yield a few strawberries. So this has just been watered this morning. I really love my SkyDrop irrigation control because I can irrigate from any place in the yard or any place in the country. Here's my SkyDrop controller. I'll open it up here so you can see it. And that'll be ready to turn on. And you can see the menu here. And you can dial what you want. I can also control this with my smartphone. If I want to water any one of these areas, I'll be able to do that by just pressing the ring in. It gives Turner, Oregon here, if you can see that. And the temperature, it's 45 degrees out. I had just enough wire that I left for the box. And you can shut it here and close it. I fixed the wire to go right along the rain gutter, and it plugs right here in this outlet. This is my SkyDrop controller on my cell phone. If I want to check my watering, I just press the program there, and it hooks up with my Wi-Fi in the house, and it tells me when my next watering is going to be, and what the current temperature is, and what the watering forecast is. Now if I want to check each individual zone, I can do that. It tells me my watering history. Since it's winter time, I have had turned off this system, so it tells me that my last watered period was Sunday, October 2nd. It gives me my schedules. It tells me that smart watering is enabled. I don't have any personal schedules in it. I leave it due according to what the weather pattern is. And zones that will be watered are all. And it tells me how much time. The zone, for example, the north bush in the driveway area, tells me when it was last watered and when it will next be watered. And it tells me that it's in zone 1 and it's shrubs. Now if I want to find out exactly about that zone, it gives me the option of watering less or watering more. It tells me that it should be watered every 21.75 days according to the weather pattern. Of course, it's rainy during the winter here, so, and it tells me the minutes to water. And those are dynamic minutes which are enabled, and the number shown is the maximum number watered
and will be reduced as conditions permit. It tells me that the zone, what the zone name is, that the zone is enabled. If there's any restrictions, I can exclude the restrictions. And another great feature of this system is it will water the zones according to what's in it, according to the plants. This is a shrub. I've got shrub indicated. It tells me what kind of sprinklers and gives me the option of different kinds of sprinklers. This is a spray head on this shrub. But if it was a rotor, I'd punch rotor. And if it was a rotary nozzle, I could punch that. And if it's an inline drip system, it gives you that option there at whatever your drip system is. If it's a ½ gallon per hour, you'd press that one. And it tells me the conditions. Is it sun, shade, partial shade, or full sun? Or if there's no shade, you just, and there's no shade here, it's full sun, I just press none. And the slope, it's on level ground, so that's correct. And the soil type, it's loamy soil, you press that. And that's how the smart water system works. Now I haven't made any changes, so I'll just cancel this, and it goes back to my original program. And I can go through all of these zones to correct any errors that I see or any conditions that I want to control. This is an excellent system. I've used it for 1 year now, and it has saved a lot of money in my watering expenses.
And now back to the update on the progress of the garden and terraces. Ooh, those strawberries are looking good. These are seascape strawberries. They are ever-bearing, and they'll bear all summer. The ones at the other end are hood strawberries. I was kind of concerned about the amount of shade we have here, but I see the strawberries are still bearing, but the plants are a little lanky. Tomatoes, I just pruned them yesterday and trying to get the leaves to go in the cage. Our lettuce is coming on very slowly, but it's growing. Parsley is ready to pick any time you want. And the porcelain plant is starting to grow well. And as are the begonias and New Guinea impatiens. The geraniums are growing well and irrigated every day, as are our own little plantings here for the flowers. The ajuga is doing very well alongside the stairway. And our petunias are coming along well. It'll be a while before they drape over the edge. These are wave petunias.
As we go along here, you can notice how I set the irrigation around the plants and in the beds.
Our sprinkling, which is motion sensing, has been working well, except when the batteries run dry. And yesterday we had a deer come and taste our blueberry plants on the end there because the battery was dead in that other motion sensing sprinkler up there. I have 4 of them. We got 13 blueberry plants, and so rather than get sprinkled, I'll turn these off. I have a total of 4 motion sensing sprinklers, and when I go through here there's still pressure in it, so when I walk by that now it'll go off. Whoa, but it runs dry quickly. I've added 2 compost bins. Bought this at a garage sale for 80 bucks, and I refurbished inside here, painted all the parts because they do rust in these lifetime bins. So this one here is getting started. Smells real nice. I hope the neighbors don't mind. And as we go up into the upper terraces, I've been helping Daryl and Ruthie at their house in Albany and brought back some brush and chipped it up, and I'm using that in our pathways here. This is my herb garden. This is cilantro here, chives, lamb's ear. This is hot and spicy oregano, and my sage is growing slowly. And this here is pineapple sage. I've got 2 of those plants. This one here is a regular sage, and this one is a golden sage right here. And I have an orange mint right here, and in the background is a curry and dill. That is just taken off like crazy. So our hebe used to be eaten by the deer, and they haven't touched it since I have that motion sensing sprinkler out there. And it's a little flower spot with petunias and a variety of other flowers. You can see my acorn squash is coming up here. And summer squash along here. And the Macintosh apple is getting quite a few apples on it. But I tested the soil yesterday, and it's going to need some lime so I don't have apples fall off, because the soil is on the acidic side. Probably would have been a great place to plant the blueberries right in there because it's acidic soil. This smoke bush is really growing well. I pruned it severely last fall, and it's come back again with a flurry. Burning bush is growing well. The deer like to eat these, but the motion sensing sprinklers have kept them away. Pink dogwood up here it's a pink Kusa dogwood, is growing well, and the hostas seem to be happy beneath it. And another little color spot here with petunias and some scopia right there. If you can see the little cage here, I have mothballs in there to help deter the deer. I don't know if it does any good, but just in case, I've got that motion sensing sprinkler right there. That'll deter the deer from coming up the pathway right there. There's a little place to come up right beside that big rock. And star juniper is doing well, as is another burning bush. And the cherry tree got a lot of leaves on it. This is a Lappin's cherry, which is a dark, sweet cherry. Some say it's even sweeter than Bing cherries. So there are a few on it this year. It's coming back from the severe deer ravage of last year. So I'm just letting it grow to help the roots get established. There's a great little sprinkler that does a great job there. The flowers here are starting to do well. Here's my huckleberry patch, and more mothballs to deter the deer. I've crowded the huckleberries in here a little bit. They should be about 3 feet apart, but I just want them to overgrow this patch here. And Japanese maple is growing well. There's a herb there, and azaleas. Azalea right there. That's
Heather.
here, I think. These are dwarf Alberta spruce. They're growing, but slowly. Here's another motion sensing sprinkler, but the head on that one does not work well. Orbit is sending another motion sensing head to replace that one free of charge. So Orbit stands by their products. These two star juniper are doing well. And this is a pineapple mint
right here. Deer don't like that either, so that's one reason I planted that in here.
Elijah blue fescue and lavender.
The lilac is doing a lot better this year. It's been in there for, this is the going on the 3rd year, and it's taken a while for it to root, but it looks like it's finally reached its rooting potential and getting nutrients for growth. And this is the Braeburn apple tree. There are only a very few apples on that tree this year. There are about, I think it needs another year or 2 to grow to get productive. Got this little screen around the apple tree. This is a Elijah blue fescue here. It got a pretty silver gray color that I like. Another burning bush. This is just taken off great. And here are some cantaloupe seeds that I planted from a cantaloupe that we ate a year ago. Have no idea what kind of cantaloupe we're going to get, because most of the cantaloupes are hybrids and you never know what you're going to get from those, so I'm surprised the seeds even came up. This is our corn. Seems to be starting to grow. It's got to be knee-high by the 4th of July. Still haven't completed this bed yet, but it should be completed when I decide to add soil to my lawn area between the terraces. Here's another motion sensing sprinkler. This takes a 9-volt battery. It's a Scarecrow. I do not like it as well as the Orbit sprinklers I have. The Orbit sprinklers have a lot more features than the Scarecrow. There's another
Mothball bag.
Another deterrent that you can use is these little bags. Nylon, if you got some old nylons, part of a nylon sock that I use to put hair in here. Use hair from dogs and put them on your plants, and that's supposed to deter the deer also. Some of the deer are pretty pesky though. As you can see, my chandlers have been pretty well eaten up by the deer. Unfortunately, I had periods of lapse in using my motion sensing sprinklers. If they worked, they would not have done that much damage to them. And trying to get the soil here more acid, so I have added more sulfur to the soil to help reduce the alkalinity. So this area in here, which will be lawn, I need to get some black dirt to put in here. I've been waiting for my arm and hand to heal from my ulnar nerve and carpal tunnel surgery before I start the large task of carrying the dirt up here, a 5-gallon bucket at a time. So on this irrigation system and the motion sensing system, I've had a little problem with the pressure. It's too high and it blows the hoses off. So what I'm going to do is get a 40-pound pressure reducer, and sprinklers only need 20 pounds of pressure to operate, but that'll keep my hoses from blowing off. What I had to do with some of these hoses is cut them in half and put couplers in so I could string out all my motion sensing sprinklers. So that's about it. All I need to do is plant the lawn here and it should be completed. And we'll wait for the things to grow and be beautiful.
This brings this video to a close for now, but there are wonderful gardening adventures ahead.